With the recently announced 2024 World of Warcraft roadmap, there were actually some new exciting details about the Season of Discovery that were revealed and not shown at BlizzCon. Namely, that instead of the speculated 4 phases to the Season of Discovery, there actually is confirmation that there will at least be 5 phases. Again, with phase 1 being the current one, with the level cap being 25, phase 2 being level 40, phase 3 level 50, phase 4 finally raising the level cap to level 60, which matches the original level cap, right? But with this roadmap, we actually saw that there is yet going to be one more phase with completely new endgame content updates. And so in today's video, we're going to be looking at my top 11 things that I'm the most excited about coming to Season of Discovery, especially when it comes to the renewed endgame. Before we get started though, do consider subscribing to my channel for more cutting edge videos about WoW Season of Discovery and other genres like ARPGs. I really appreciate your support. So with that, the very first thing that I'm very excited about for the Season of Discovery is just the fact that there will be a 5th endgame update phase in the game. And even though I just said that, hear me out, because what I'm referring to here is mainly also what that actually entails in a lot of different ways, right? Such as, I think this will actually update the endgame to make it not only have more content, but also be more accessible. Because especially given how the Season of Discovery has been intended for sort of players with perhaps less time to play, less being able to have like really extremely high-end gear or perhaps have better ways of obtaining them to be able to experience more of the endgame, which I think is their goal here. And so in addition to just having more variety of content to do, I also think that Blizzard is going to be doing their best to make the game more accessible while preserving the spirit of vanilla WoW as best as they can, by also still having a bit of perhaps more challenging content to go with that. And getting into some of the specifics of this endgame, including things that Blizzard have officially announced, and also other things that I'm sort of making an educated guess on. The second thing I'm really excited about is that Blizzard have actually confirmed that old raids from Classic WoW or Vanilla WoW will be making a return and will allow players to be able to test out their new gear and of course their new runes and abilities and specs on this older content. But not only that, I think there will very likely be, and Blizzard have also alluded to this, and it's that they might have a chance of getting some of their learnings and some of the mechanics and things they implemented from the Season of Mastery, which is, again, if you're not aware, it's sort of the previous season of Classic WoW where Blizzard made some changes to old raids, making them a bit more challenging and perhaps more fun, instead of completely redoing the old raids as they are. So I think there's a very high chance that there will be some updates to old raids as well, in addition to, of course, the new raids that have been announced for the Season of Discovery and perhaps even more to come, right? Again, with the new raids that are coming, first of all, we already have Blackfathom Deeps at this current level cap. Later at level 40, we'll have Gnomeregan, that's been confirmed. And then the 2 other ones that have been teased are Scarlet Monastery, likely for level 50, and then Karazhan Crypts, which is likely for level 60. Not to say that there won't be more, but Blizzard have also said that the old raids are going to be coming back. So that should be pretty exciting, especially with things like Naxxramas, which not as many players have still been able to experience, I think. And I also think alongside that, and sort of going back to the accessibility point that I made, is that Blizzard might actually consider making some of the old raids as well have lower requirements. Specifically, such as with things like player count, maybe they'll be able to release an update, say to Naxxramas or AQ25 or something like that, to make the player count, to make the minimum player count for them something like 10 players, which could make them even more accessible as well. Especially also considering that Naxxramas had a 10-player version in Wrath of the Lich King, right? Which I think they might even bring something like that back as well. Additionally, I think it'll be cool if Blizzard did some dungeon updates, right? Actually, if you think about it, Gnomeregan as well as Scarlet Monastery becoming raids, these are all originally dungeons, right? So what's to say that they're not going to do something similar as well with some of the other existing old dungeons, such as some cool and larger ones like Scholomance, BlackRock depths, etc. So that would be pretty cool as well. Or even going with something like the more modern Legion expansion concept of mega dungeons could be pretty neat as well. And of course, with all this aforementioned stuff, I think we will very likely see some new and varied gear options too. Next, for the third thing I'm really excited about, we've got updates to existing zones and possibly even new zones. And Blizzard have indeed said, such as with the Karazhan Crypts, that they love to go back and sort of revisit and perhaps even update some of the older zones that they might have planned to do something with back in the vanilla days but never really had the chance to, or perhaps scrapped the idea for whatever reason, but now actually have the opportunity to revisit. So for example, I would love to see some updates to something like Azshara, the zone itself. There actually have been some rumblings about the Azshara crater being a thing back in vanilla WoW that could be a candidate for an update. I think it's quite likely. Maybe they can even add like a battleground to it or something like that. I remember hearing something about this years ago, having sort of an Azshara MOBA style battleground or something like that. Anyhow, some other zones that I think could be cool to update are places like Winterspring, which of course is an existing zone along with Azshara, but doesn't really have that much content to it just yet. But, you know, is also an endgame high level zone. And another one that could be cool that I think will probably not come, but I think would be awesome if they added it in, and that would be Mount Hyjal. I think that would be really cool because they could tie that into sort of Warcraft 3 lore, have a Mount Hyjal version before the events of Cataclysm. I think that would be awesome. And alongside all this stuff, there would of course be not only new quests, new rewards to gain, activities to do, such as some that are tied to rune acquisition with some of the later runes for each class, and also if the first phase was any indication, and if I'm right about Blizzard's philosophy with the Season of Discovery, there will also be more socially based activities, especially in the endgame as well, right? I think that'd be really cool to see for not only the end game to be more accessible, like I said before, but also to just go in the direction of having more incentive, like, you know, in phase one where we had some collaborative rune acquisition methods where you had to have multiple people get a rune. They could actually add some more collaborative activities to sort of enhance the social aspect of WoW in the end game too. And on to number 4, and let's speed up a little bit, but anyhow, that would be new or updates to existing factions, as well as of course new activities to earn reputation with them, and new rewards. For example, they could probably update the Timbermaw Hold faction, or Timbermaw Furbolgs, where you'll be able to get additional endgame viable rewards from them or have more activities tied to them, and this could also tie into, say, Winterspring activities too. Another one would be a faction similar to, or a continuation of, the one that we had in phase 1 of Season of Discovery, where we would periodically get these crates that we would have to turn in a profession item for to be able to earn reputation with them, right? Which would unlock some of our runes for each class or specialization. So I think having new factions and just as another vertical, as an endgame activity would be pretty cool as well, especially if they can offer some cool and updated rewards with them. And for you PvPers out there and myself, on to number 5, I'm also pretty excited for new PvP activities beyond, of course, Ashenvale that we have right now, which admittedly isn't the best event because we're sort of just zerging each side's bosses at this moment, but Blizzard have said that they will take their lessons and learnings from the Ashenvale PvP event to improve upon the new ones that they have planned in the future, such as Stranglethorn Vale, which has been announced for phase 2, and likely there will be more moving forward as well. And perhaps they will even keep Ashenvale and Stranglethorn Vale relevant even in the endgame by sort of updating perhaps some of the rewards and requirements later on. But we'll see whether that becomes the case. But even if not, we'll still have up to 3 battlegrounds to look forward to, of course. Maybe even new ones. I don't expect them to add any more beyond Warsong Gulch, Arathi Basin, and Alterac Valley. But maybe they will make some tweaks to Alterac Valley to make it closer to the modern version. And of course, there can also be new rewards similar to how there was with the Ashenvale event, rewarding amount among other things, there can definitely and will, I think, definitely be new rewards associated to PvP that players can look forward to as well. And perhaps just more incentives to do open world PvP in general. And then with that, on to number 6, and still on the topic of PvP, I'm also actually really excited at the fact that, and this is already the current implementation of PvP ranks in Season of Discovery in Phase 1, and it's that your ranks actually don't decay. So currently people have been able to get to rank 3. So what I think Blizzard has planned is with each subsequent phase, they're going to gradually increase the sort of rank cap alongside our level cap. So by the time we get to level 40, currently the cap is rank 3, right? But by the time they increase the level cap to 40 with phase 2, that PvP honor ranking cap will likely be raised alongside that too. And then of course subsequently with level 50, and then level 60, maybe they won't unlock all the way up to rank 13 or 14 with the first level 60 phase, seeing as there are 2 level 60 phases planned. But even if they don't, I'm pretty excited at the fact that honor ranks will not decay, as you only have to earn that amount of honor to be able to rank up, and thus becomes less of a crazy competitive grind towards the end. I remember way back in Vanilla WoW, I had to do this grind, or I tried to do this rank grind. I ended up, my highest rank was rank 11. I got to, or peaked at around rank 30 something on my server at the time in terms of like amount of honor gain or like honor ranking, I forget which one it was. But it really was difficult without having that many, or without having that much access to Battleground pre-mates. I remember staying up at night, farming Alterac Valley and just doing all sorts of things even while still going to school to be able to even compete and be able to reach that rank. And sometimes I wouldn't even have done enough to be able to rank up, and my rank would actually decay week to week, which is crazy despite actually putting work into it. So I think this is a very welcome change, especially for more casual players, which again, Season of Discovery seems to be catered to. And for point number 7, onto some gearing stuff. Blizzard have said that tier sets will not only be coming back, but that there will very likely be new sets or maybe even retuning to older sets to of course accommodate for some of the new specializations that the Season of Discovery has opened up for each class, right? So I think that is extremely exciting, especially since each player and each class will not be pigeonholed into a certain specialization by collecting sets that are intended for a certain spec, right? Back like how it was sort of in Vanilla WoW. So I think just having more options and maybe even updated sets and perhaps even different ways to earn these useful sets for different specs instead of just having to raid can be really fun and interesting. And not only that, and on to number 8 on my list, but in addition to new and updated tier sets, I also think that there's a high chance that we'll get new legendaries too, especially of course since variety and different specs and new ways to play and power fantasies is such a huge focus of the Season of Discovery. I think there's a very good chance that we'll see additional legendaries and of course like epic items. That's a given, which we already have, but I think legendaries and sort of the epic quest lines that go into them will be really cool to have for different types of roles in the game. Currently we only have 3, so it's the Hand of Ragnaros, Thunder Fury, and then Atiesh. If you know, that's really rare, but if that counts, perhaps they'll also make Atiesh more attainable. But anyhow, it'd be cool to add a couple more legendaries to help out some of the different specs too, and also to help balance out the different specs, right? Help those specs and classes that don't have access to these legendaries be able to compete with the ones that do, right? Of course, the balance doesn't have to be perfect as it wasn't in Vanilla WoW, and people were okay with that. But I think with Season of Discovery, they do want a little bit more balance and parity, and thus, and of course, there's variety. And thus, I think adding more legendaries would be kind of a way to help with that too, and also to make the game more exciting and fun and have more things to chase in the end game. And on to the 9th thing that I'm really excited about, sort of still on the topic of itemization and gear, and that is new options for endgame professions, not only in terms of gear, but also consumables and new items that are interesting, right, for professions, and sort of just new ways to play into the fantasy of a designated crafter or whatever profession players undertake. For example, by having interesting and new ways for players to obtain rare recipes, having certain recipes be really involved and really cool and produce extremely powerful items. I definitely think we're on a good trend to that, especially given the buying on pickup epic gear that we've gotten in phase 1 already. There's a high chance that we'll get similar stuff for the subsequent phases, of course. And I think the other professions that are non-gear crafting could use some love as well, and I think they will, especially with, say, engineering and enchanting, alchemy. Maybe they'll get some more bind on pickup cool items too. And even things like fishing and cooking, I think could use some pretty cool stuff, but I would say that's not as much of a priority. Next for number 10, and I do think that this is more of an obvious one, but I'm still pretty excited about the new runes and thus new specs and new builds that are going to be possible throughout the next few phases, and especially in the end game of Season of Discovery. And this, I think, will actually not just be limited to the currently new ones that we have in phase 1. Again, Blizzard have actually already teased some additional ones that they're planning, such as two-handed enhancement, becoming more or receiving more support. And alongside that, I think they're going to probably add some more different specs for different power fantasies too. And in addition to that, I think it would be really interesting to see how people sort of mix and match the different runes, as well as their talent trees, to perhaps even create new sort of hybrid specs or completely different talent specs from vanilla WoW or classic WoW, right? They can mix and match their not only their runes, but the talent points in a specific way to even make new builds out of that. So I think just that experimentation and variety and just having not as cookie cutter of a meta, I think, hopefully, would be pretty interesting later on. And with that, onto my final thing that I'm really excited about, and you might actually disagree with me, but it's that I think there will be much less botting, or rather that it'll be much more difficult to bot at higher levels in Season of Discovery, especially relative to what it is right now, which admittedly isn't a great state, because with the level cap being 25 and also the materials for this current phase and level range being so easy to access and obtain, it's really easy for bots to get started making gold right now, especially even if they get banned after a few weeks or so, like after being identified, they would still be able to make some gold before that happens, right? Whereas that's going to be a lot more difficult once the level cap gets raised to 60, because of course of the amount of time and effort it'll take for someone to get to level 60. And assuming the time to get an account banned on average stays about the same as now, there should be a lot more difficulty and higher barrier to entry or barrier of entry for these botters and gold farmers to be able to reach level 60 and profitability and still not get banned in a timely manner. So I'm actually looking forward to that. Hopefully that happens and will allow the economy at level 60 to be more healthy, so to speak. And with that, that's pretty much all I have for now for the 11 top things that I'm really excited about for later on in Season of Discovery, especially when it comes to an updated, revamped endgame. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Perhaps also add what you are the most excited about. And with that, thank you so much for watching. Again, consider subscribing to my channel, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.